You ready?
I'm ready.
Hi, it's Jerry Roberts back with Newsmakers, Journal of the Plague Year. It is Tuesday, August 4th, and it is 13 Tuesdays before the November 3rd election. And we'll be joining you every Tuesday to kind of update you what's going on. We're back with my Calbuzz partner, Phil Trounstine, today. How are you, young man?
I'm doing all right. How are you, buddy?
Good. And today we're going to be talking about the vice presidential sweepstakes. Joe Biden has promised by the end of this week to pick a vice presidential running mate, but now he's saying, maybe next week. What's the rush? Why do I want to get out of the basement? So we're going to go through who we think are the contenders for it. And as everybody recalls, there's different reasons. You can pick a vice president. You can pick it to win a state like JFK famously did with LBJ, or a demographic as Walter Mondale did with Geraldine Ferraro so successfully in 1984. Phil, you remember that. You can heal the party as Ronald Reagan did with George H.W. Bush. Buttress a weakness as Obama did with Biden. Double down, as Clinton did with Gore, said we are moderates, we're not crazy liberals. But I think the main thing you want to do is do no harm. Do you not agree? You were in New Orleans with us all when H.W. picked Dan Quayle.
I was there for every minute of it.
That was successful. And then, of course, Sarah Palin, which worked out very well. Your close personal friend, Steve Schmidt.
Right.
Pick that one. So let's go through, with those criteria in mind, let's go through who we think are some of the possible contenders. And let's start with who I think everybody thinks of as the front runner, Kamala Harris, junior senator from California. Where do you think she comes down on most of those boxes in terms of checking or not checking?
Well, I think the downside, let's take the downside to Kamala first, and that is she is exposed on the right. She's exposed from the right mainly because of various different things that she did when she was Attorney General of California and when she was District Attorney in San Francisco. In particular, for those viewers who will remember the Willie Horton case with Michael Dukakis, she's got her own Willie Horton case in San Francisco where she did not seek the death penalty for a murderer who, this guy Gonzalez, who carried out a terrible murder in the city of San Francisco. And she, because of her, at that time, her principal position on the death penalty, did not seek the death penalty for him, which outraged everyone from Dianne Feinstein to...
well, he was a cop killer.
He was a cop killer, yeah. So she's got some vulnerabilities from the right. There are other things about her record that make her a juicy target from the right. But you have to figure that anybody who gets picked is going to get attacked from the right. And I don't know that the things that she's got in her past, because she is the secondary character on the ticket, are any worse than anybody else's who's a potential running mate. And
is that
so
her now? Is that her now, calling?
I think so. I think that's Ace Smith calling.
Yeah, but she also has.
So on the other hand, let me just say, I think she ticks a lot of boxes. She's incredibly sharp. She's articulate. She is a very handsome woman. She's got a lot of experience, and she's got a national profile. She's Black, and if she could help Biden in Milwaukee, in Detroit, in Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, those are all places where Blacks did not turn out for Hillary Clinton. And if she could help juice that vote in those places, I think she helps Biden put those states away, and that's the whole thing right there.
Well, and those three states, right, that you just enumerated, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, that is the
right
whole thing before you even get into Florida or Georgia or any of these other
exactly
places.
exactly.
Well, what about the rap on her from the left, from the Bernie-crats, that she was in fact too tough as a prosecutor? I mean, she's kind of
Yeah, she's got some stuff. I mean, she was going to prosecute. She proposed. She never really did it, but she proposed to prosecute parents whose kids were truant from school.
I got one of those letters. Hey.
But you didn't get prosecuted.
Tales of fatherhood. But yeah, yeah, she did. And, there was another case where the current district attorney of San Francisco, Keisha Boudin, who is way to the left, just revoked the death sentence of the only person from San Francisco on death row, who the attorneys and community groups implored Kamala to do both as district attorney and as attorney general. And she said, no, it was impossible to do. It took this guy about a month. So she's going to get hit one way or the other on that one.
Well, she's also got the fact that there were 2 ballot measures in California while she was attorney general that dealt with the death penalty, and she stood neutral on both of them. And
yeah.
While she was actively fighting the Trump administration and various different lawsuits as an active attorney general, she sort of threw her hands up and said, "Oh, I can't get involved in that."
Yeah.
On the other hand, Jerry, an attack from the left is really a question of it might affect turnout a little bit, but Trump is such a big issue himself that it's hard to see how those things could prevent somebody from voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah. All right. How about the other Californian in this? Former Assembly Speaker, now Congresswoman from LA, Karen Bass.
Who is a terrific legislator. We know that in Sacramento she was widely respected by both sides of the aisle. She's
played nice with everyone.
She did, and she was capable of reaching consensus on complex issues. She's an extremely thoughtful legislator. But she has no national profile, none. And a couple of things about her open her up to some questioning about. I mean, she was part of the Venceremos Brigade.
She was with you in the Venceremos Brigade, wasn't she?
No, she was in the Venceremos Brigade. I was never in the Venceremos Brigade, but she was in the Venceremos Brigade, which was organized by SDS, Students for Democratic Society, as a group that went down to Cuba to help with medical stuff, with housing and things like that. And she continued on her relationship with Cuba all the way into the Obama administration, was part of the delegation that went with Obama to Cuba.
So there goes Florida.
But okay, well, maybe there goes a piece of Florida anyway. There goes the conservative, right-wing Cuban vote in Florida.
In Miami.
But maybe in Miami. But Miami has also got a lot of black people, and so does Florida. And so it's not clear that I think Karen Bass could really be helpful in that regard.
Too many unknowns, though. No, Phil. I mean, who knows what else is going to pop up?
Well, that's the thing. Is that she's never been vetted in a national campaign, and Kamala has. And so, if you take those 2 from California, it seems to me that Kamala's got the edge. Now, there was a very bad article in Politico, not about a week ago. It wasn't a bad article actually, but there was some very bad.
Chris Catalogo,
who I thought the article was very good except for one sentence. And in trying to identify the difference between Karen Bass and Kamala Harris, it said she's the anti-Kamala Harris. Well, I don't think he actually meant that, and I think it was bad writing and editing. It should have said she's the un-Kamala, like the un-Cola in relationship to. She's not. Those two people have never opposed each other on anything, as far as I know.
Yeah.
But she's very unlike Kamala Harris.
Well,
Kamala
she's low
Harris,
key. She's very low
she's
key.
low key. She's not a publicity seeker. She's she didn't even want her picture taken for the article for Politico. I mean, whereas Kamala Harris is all about Kamala Harris, and it's all about shining a light on Kamala Harris.
And that's what that
So,
piece. That's what that piece was about. That
right.
that they're fearful that from day one she's just going to be positioning herself for 2024, because obviously Joe's not going to run again,
Right.
and kind of be checked out. But here's the thing about Karen Bass. Two points. One is she goes on the Today Show this week, and the takeaway for the interview is, "I am not a communist." Is that the way that we want to introduce ourselves to the American people? And secondly, I find it very interesting that the San Francisco Democrats, led by Nancy Pelosi, who likes Bass a lot, are in there pitching with Biden to pick her over Kamala. And I have a feeling our old friend Richard Blum, Mr. Dianne Feinstein, might be in there, big bundler and fundraiser for Joe.
It's a very strange dynamic. You would expect Kamala's home-based people, which includes Nancy Pelosi, it includes Dianne Feinstein, it includes former Senator Barbara Boxer. I mean, there's a lot of people that are influential in the Democratic Party that you would expect to be in Kamala's corner. Instead, they're somewhat wary about Kamala, and
which is a big
there's good
flag.
reason. There's good reason to be wary about Kamala if you're looking at a presidential candidate. But if you're looking at a vice presidential candidate, and I said this last time, it seems to me that Kamala Harris, with the right kind of seasoning, could be a very credible person for president of the United States. That if she's able to take the tasks of a vice president and perform them and respond to the leadership of somebody else and demonstrate that she can do that, it seems to me that measure of humility will serve her extremely well 4 years from now. And that's what I think Kamala needs.
Well, the other thing is, the other question about a vice presidential candidate is, can you imagine them in the Oval Office? And you can with Kamala, I think. Karen
Right.
Bass, I think, is a little bit more of a stretch, mostly because, we don't know her as well. Nobody knows her as well, and she hasn't proven it. All right, let's go through some of these others.
Okay.
Elizabeth Warren at one point was primarily mentioned, but I don't know. I get the sense now from all the coverage and so on that it's got to be a black woman. Do you not?
That's what I think. But I think I've mentioned this before. I'm terrible at picking vice presidents.
Well,
So,
we're not picking. What we want to talk
well,
about.
if it's a question
Who
of should,
Who
if it's a question of should, she should definitely not be the vice president to Joe Biden, because she is ideologically so far to the left of him, and temperamentally, it seems to me, not really a good partner. And so I think Elizabeth Warren is as smart as she is, as accomplished as she is, and I think she needs. If I were Joe Biden, I would love to see Kamala Harris as my Treasury Secretary.
You mean Elizabeth Warren?
I mean Elizabeth Warren. I would love to see Elizabeth Warren as as a Treasury Secretary. That would scare the hell out of the banks. And I mean, she may be too far left for him on those kinds of issues, but she's somebody who understands that world, and also she has no foreign policy experience. Not that,
and she's she's too close to him in age too, I think. Is the
yeah, that's right. She doesn't. She's not a generational pick.
Yeah. All right. How about Keisha Lance Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta?
I think she's terrific. I think she's absolutely fabulous. The only downside to Keisha Lance Bottoms is that she doesn't have national experience. She doesn't have national exposure, and she doesn't have she hasn't had experience on the national stage and dealing with issues. On the other hand, she's extremely articulate. She's She's a absolutely beautiful woman, and she's got a tremendous following. She might be able to carry Georgia. Who knows?
And she's she's handled the coronavirus pretty well.
Handle the coronavirus extremely well. I think
And the
she
Black
would.
Lives Matters protest. I mean, she's
Right.
been,
I think she's a terrific candidate, and I don't see a lot of downsides to her, except that it's hard to jump from being a mayor to being a president.
quite a
You
stretch.
have to imagine that whoever is there uh, would have to could conceivably have to step in at some point. Now, again, there's a
She
kind
hasn't been
there's a
vetted, and she hasn't been vetted.
no, she
Nationally.
hasn't been vetted. Right. And so, we don't know what's in the background, but as far as I know, there's nothing that's glaring anyway that's come out about her. And again, she's one of those people with the right kind of seasoning, you could imagine as president of the United States.
Yeah. Okay, Phil, I criticize myself severely for this, but I gotta raise the Calbuzz question on this.
Okay.
Biden bottoms. Biden bottoms, is that a good? I don't know. That's not a good sign. You know what I'm saying?
How
Okay.
about Joe and Keisha?
Joe and Keisha would be better. Would be better. Sounds like a morning talk show. All right. How about Val Demings, the representative from Florida? What do we think of her?
Again, I think look, there's a quality legislator, very, very well spoken, sharp. She's a cop. That Now here's the question:
Good cut.
how do black voters? I don't know how black voters react to a cop. And on the other hand, she's got herself elected in a place that required a lot of black support. She's got a terrific record on national issues that involved Black Lives Matter kinds of issues.
And she was on the impeachment team,
Right.
the impeachment managers.
Right. So I mean, I think she does very little harm. I think, and
puts Florida
again,
could put Florida in.
might put Florida in. At least make Trump believe Florida's in play, and that's a good thing. So
Florida's the whole thing. He can't lose Florida. It doesn't matter.
No, he can't. Florida and Ohio are sort of the two linchpins for Trump's survival.
All right, now here's someone who was flavor of the week last week, Susan Rice. We saw that, all of a sudden there was a lot of, I mean, don't you get the sense that it's the Biden people putting this out to kind of see what, how the press is going to react to it? Because she was really.
I can't tell whether it's, we're so far away out here that it's hard to tell whether or not these things are sort of being funneled or whether or not it's just various different reporters who sort of get an itch and say, oh, let's look at this. Let's look at this today.
Well, she's a former national security advisor to Obama. She would be ready day one in terms of, national security issues, global issues, so on and so forth.
The only question you're asking is who is the single most qualified person if Joe Biden had a stroke tomorrow, then Susan Rice, it seems to me, is the best choice in that she's been in the White House. She knows where all the bodies are buried. She knows what's in the closets. She knows who to talk to. She's got international experience. She's a tremendous asset. I think she'd make a great Secretary of State. And she's not a politician, Jared. The question is, do you want to pick somebody who is not fundamentally a politician for the Vice President of the United States, which is an extremely political position?
Right. Although this campaign, looks like it's going to be waged mostly on Zoom anyway. So, I think those skills of, exciting people, going to rallies, so on and so forth, they're probably a little less important this year than in most years. But of course, it gives the Republicans the pathway to Benghazi. And do we want to recreate all that, or is anybody going to care about that? I don't know.
It's a talking point for Republicans. It's a way to screech and yell and make a lot of noise. very little light. I mean, how many times was Benghazi investigated? 9 times by the House of Representatives, I think.
And how many people died? Four, kind of four.
Yeah, right, right. And so,
150,000 in the.
yeah, so it just seems to me that yeah, sure, would they make a case of it? Absolutely, they'd make a case of it. Would it matter much? I don't know. Uh, my biggest problem with Susan Rice is that she's never really been a political candidate, and it's a difference than being a technocrat in Washington. And I think she's a fabulous technocrat, bureaucrat, whatever you want to call her. She's terrific at that. But you know, it's like saying, should George Shultz run for office?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. What about Tammy Duckworth, the senator from Illinois? Lost her legs in Iraq. She has a great personal.
Got a great biography. Got a great personal story. Terrific, and she's a white woman. And I just think that she's got to pick a black person.
Okay. Same thing. We want to cross Gretchen Whitmer off the.
Same thing. Same sort of thing. I think. I mean,
she's done a hell of a job with the virus, Gretchen Whitmer.
Yes.
And she's, you know, she gets Michigan for you, maybe.
Maybe. But I think if he doesn't win Michigan, he doesn't win anyway.
Right.
And the question is, how do you get Michigan? You get Michigan by getting the same votes that Hillary Clinton got, except you juice the black vote.
You got
and which she didn't do because she didn't get a big turnout in Detroit because she never really clicked with black people. Whereas a black woman vice presidential candidate is going to have an inroad and maybe drive that vote up in Detroit.
Okay, so we know for a fact, because he said it in his last debate with Bernie, that Joe Biden is going to pick a woman.
Right.
The inference has grown as he's drawn this process out longer and longer that it needs to be a black woman. Certainly Black Lives Matter contributed to that. I think the fact that, you know, black women are the most loyal Democratic voters that there are, you know, that's what turned it around for him in South Carolina.
Right.
To get it. So I think it will be hard for him not to pick a black woman. But one more name I got is Michelle Lujan Grisham, the governor of New Mexico, a Latina, who would perhaps excite that base and goose turnout there. What do you think about playing it?
That's a worthwhile thing to do, and I think that certainly increasing the Latino turnout and vote would be a tremendous asset to the ticket. Again, she doesn't have any national profile. Of course, Spiro Agnew didn't have a national profile when they picked him either. But vice presidential candidates don't necessarily have to have a pre-existing national profile. But it seems to me that it helps. I also don't think she's been vetted. I don't know anything. I don't know much about her. And I think the lack of having ever been put through the mill in any serious way is a problem.
Although she would play well in Arizona, I expect.
Yeah.
Another place they're trying to steal away from them.
Right.
So Phil, if I got this right, we think in order that Biden should pick Kamala, Karen Bass, Keisha Bottoms, Susan Rice, Val Demings, Michelle Grisham, Elizabeth Warren, and Tammy Duckworth. Does that sound about right?
I put Elizabeth Warren at the bottom. I put Tammy Duckworth one up.
I've always more.
I know you've always had a soft spot for Elizabeth Warren. So.
All right. Now the last question I have is, why is he taking so long to do this?
He's not taking so long.
This out. Well,
Obama named Biden on August 23rd.
Yeah, except
You know,
given the
it,
circumstances and given that it's, it's such a huge pick because he's so old. He's almost as old as you, if you can imagine that. It's a big deal. And it just seems like this whole thing of playing women off against each other, that narrative has surfaced now in the wake of the Politico report.
I think that is so much political writers, you know, fan dance that it's so inside. The average American doesn't give a rat's patoot about when Joe Biden picks somebody to be vice president. The question, I just think it's political writers sort of who are impatient. I think Gene Robinson said it the other day on TV. I think it's impatient political writers who want the answer to their question now, and instead of because they can't stand uncertainty. And you know, does the average person give a damn? No, they don't give a damn. And
now they're concerned about the pandemic, I think, a little bit.
right, and I would say, and maybe the economy somewhat. And it just seems to me that it's a lot of falderall, and I don't think it really matters. He could pick. What's the date of the convention? He could pick the person that 2 days before the convention. We've had
Yeah,
presidents.
that's the way it used to be.
They used to name them at the convention. Remember, and so it's just not. It's really kind of a silly argument to get sucked into, I think.
Okay,
and,
well, there you
and I don't think
you
he's
have it.
pitting. I don't think he's pitting these women against each other. I
There
think
you have it. Cal Buzzard, Phil Trounstine, sitting in his McMansion in Aptos, speaking on behalf of the average American.
that's right. Well, Jerry, we've always said that Calbuzz is right at the heart of the center of California's average man and woman in Santa Barbara and Aptos.
All right, partner. I'll talk to you. Thanks.
All right, take care.